AI, I think, can make things look as though they are creative and unique. But I really think that the human touch and the human element is what makes people feel the things.
Welcome to Contrary to Popular Opinion, a podcast hosted by Unfiltered Digital. In each episode, we bring you provocative topics and novel perspectives around leadership, business, and marketing that defy the norms because exponential growth demands unconventional thinking and visionary action. So open your mind and let's get into this week's episode.
Hey everyone, Kelly McGuire with Unfiltered Digital. Excited to talk to today's guest.
Hey, everybody, this is Todd, Kelly's co-founding partner. It's Monday, November 10th. I am fresh off of Parents Weekend at UCSB, the Barstool Sports ranked #1 party school in the country. And I'm ready to go because it was a fun weekend. And we have a really, really fun personality in person that we have known for a long time, Rebecca Rothstein, who, I don't know, for more than a decade has worked at some of the biggest agencies and the biggest brands and on the brand side, hailing from both New York, Miami, LA as an LA native resident. You have a lot to talk about, we know, and we've always enjoyed that conversation. So welcome, Rebecca, to Contrary to Popular Opinion.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm so excited to be back on the Zoom screen with you all.
I don't know about the Zoom screen, but yeah, we'll take the conversation all day long.
Well, it's second best to like meeting for one of Kelly's fancy lady cocktails. So
Do you like a good girly drink?
Yes. Yes.
Well, look, so today, what I want to talk about is your new company, The Shorts. And I want to talk a lot about creative and content and strategy and sort of the mixology of all those things, which comes out into this sort of soup of storytelling, that's sort of your bread and butter and where your core interest lies. So I've got a lot of sort of questions or topics to talk about. From the time we started working with you in our past lives to now, wow, have things changed? Because when we first started talking to you, working with you, AI wasn't an acronym that we used in our language. So a lot's changed. I want to talk about that. We'll put you on the hot seat at the end. But first, The Shorts. There is a Madison Avenue backstory to this. You must explain to the listeners, what does it mean?
Okay, so here we go. So for those that have never met me in person, I'm not of tall stature. So it is one of my defining characteristics. I have many defining characteristics. That's just one of them. And when I worked on Madison Avenue, I worked at TBWA Chiat Day for 7 years, 488 Madison. And I worked the early shift and I worked the late shift. And the late shift was, past 7, 8 p.m. And there was a late night security guard that worked downstairs to make sure, the riffraff didn't come in the building. And me and my colleagues that worked the late shift, hustle mode at Chiat, we became really good friends with this security guard. And she was this fabulous woman. She is from Queens and she was the best. Her name was Nikki. And when you came down late at night after your, really long day, and you would have to sign out. And when you signed out, she would always just call me Shorts. And it was more like Schultz. So Schultz, it's Schultz. And then it would be my buddy Jason, who was Squigs. So everyone kind of had a nickname. And we would just sign out our name as Shorts and Squigs. So it's sort of my tribute to the late night Madison Avenue hustle that, put in my time. And with my new company, it's really bringing to life all the things that I've learned along the way on Madison Avenue and Venice Beach and all of the places that I've sort of grown up in. And a shout out to Nikki, the security guard at 488 Madison, who really, I think she appreciated the hustle that late night hustle and not leaving until the job was done. So that's
We
how we
might
got
just
the
have to
name.
find Nikki somewhere on LinkedIn and send this to her when
I know,
she
right?
publishes. Might have to
Yeah.
look her up.
So we'll, I should try. I got to try and find her and send her a bottle of something good. So
Love it. Something interesting you said there, which culturally, Kelly and I have always been very much against as agency employees and owners, which I think is interesting. And this is not the topic we want to talk about today, but something that you did bring up is the idea of this like late night agency sort of working mentality and shift. And, I remember telling stories to people about how I had to do that. And I don't think we've ever had to do that in any of our companies or asked our employees to do that, maybe rarely, but it's not the norm. And in the world that you grew up in, that was the norm. And I maybe it is still today. I don't know. I don't hear about it as much as I used to hear about it being the norm and the grind. But that was the norm back then. For those of you who might be thinking about entering the advertising industry as a career, that was
yeah, it was the norm, and I'm not sure. I'm not in the Madison Avenue worlds anymore. Certainly not in the New York agency world. I know that there are probably still late nights, but I think with the shift in culture of people working from home, and schedules being a little bit more fluid, but like that was part of the fun. I was in my 20s, and like that's what you did. You hustled. There were many nights where I, was there. We pulled all-nighters, and we were working on a new business pitch, and it was all night. And you'd people would come in the next morning at 8 a.m. and they'd be like, "You're still here?" "Yeah, we're still here. We're gonna win that pitch. We're gonna win it." So yeah, I think it's not so much. Ever since then, it has been my mentality to not do the late night hustle. It's not fun. It sucks. But I think that if you really prioritize your day and your workflow and you have the right team in place, which sounds like you guys do because you don't need to do that anymore. Then you can try and eliminate that late night hustle. But back in the day, in like the early mid 2000s, like that was the hustle. That was the hustle.
And your salary was $28,000.
I mean, if that, yeah. So exactly.
While you were doing that. Well, here's to the past, and let's talk about the future, which is completely unknown at this point in time. Kelly and I are having this conversation regularly. But to talk with you today about creative and strategy and content and sort of, again, the mixology of all those things, I think some of the biggest topics we're facing today is human versus machine, and human craft versus machine generated craft. So you and Kelly, I'm interested to hear from both of you, especially on the creative side. Is taste, is culture, is any of that stuff an advantage, a human advantage? Do you think that there's a machine advantage to taste and culture? How does that work when machines can generate hundreds or thousands of variations of things now? Is it diluting craftsmanship, or is it making it better? I'm curious what you think, what you've seen recently in the last maybe 12 months. What is your opinion about this?
So I would say that brands and organizations are leaning very heavily into using AI to portray this feeling of being creative and tapping into culture and being funny and being emotional. And I think that AI, this is why we're talking about this, right? Contrary to popular belief,
Right.
popular opinion, AI, I think, can make things look as though they are creative and unique. But I really think that the human touch and the human element is what makes people feel the things. You can look all you want, but the way that something makes you feel is really, that's what moves the needle, in my opinion. AI is great. If you need to bang out 50 different ad size units and you need to just go, yes, all the way. Use AI, make sure that there is a human looking at it at the end to make sure that everything is as it needs to be and just so. But use that all you want. But I think when it comes to a core idea and making an audience feel something, feel an emotion, that you really need that human touch. You need that human who is experienced that same feeling. I'll give you an example. I've worked on a lot of products that moms, parents are the shoppers for. And I worked on it before I was a mom, before I had kids, and then afterwards. And I really do think that I'm able to tap into those insights so much easier and with so much more emotion and sensitivity because we have those shared cultural moments, those shared insights with my audience. So I will go out and say, yes, if you need to create 350 different ad sizes, go ahead, use AI. Yes, it's a great tool. When you want to make your audience feel special and feel an emotion, let's put the human touch in there.
Yeah, I think for me, it gets really interesting because I think it opens up a bigger conversation around what marketing and advertising and ads in particular are trying to accomplish because and it opens it up to so many avenues on that, right? Because you have this idea of you can be very formulaic, right? If you're trying to create conversion at the end of it, there is an element of formulaic approach to that where it's if I say the right words in the right order, if I match it to that person's experience, if I can use data to understand their needs, I can put together the right combination of assets to put in front of them that taps into their need and sends them to the right direction. But you're talking about a very particular point in the funnel, a very particular thing that you're trying to push. And I think that this carries through on what you're trying to sell, right? There are some things that are very emotionally driven. They're very personal. They're very decision making. This goes back to conversations we've had around, are you pushing brand or utility and what's going through there versus some of the emotion needing to be what grabs attention, what gets people to stop scrolling, what gets people to have credibility and authenticity and believe the message that's coming through. And so there's all this spectrum of things that go in there. And I think it all circles back to me when I think about AI and the big keep having, which is I continue to believe that AI can be an incredible tool to enhance what really creative and talented people can do. And if it's guided and leveraged in the right way, it can be really powerful. And it frustrates me when I hear more about the replacement and the ease and the cheapening of things, because yes, it can be used that way, but I don't think that's the most effective way. Like, I feel like that's a limited ceiling on what it'll do. Like maybe AI has enough novelty right now to where you can use it. It'll be kind of cool for people. And maybe you get that sort of that bounce or that pop on, okay, but once everybody's using AI, once it's the same data, once it's the same things being informed, I always talk about it's going to become noisy. How is anyone going to differentiate and break through? And you just kind of create this new level playing field where everyone's fighting on the same field once again, and you have to figure out creative ways to break through. And now you bring back the human element to it. So it's so complicated because there's so many different ways you can be like, well, AI is great and it can solve things really fast, but it can take away the human element, but it can also enhance the human element if used right and all of that. So I don't know. There's so many ways to think about it. It gets so interesting.
That's coming up next.
Oh, there we go. You know what? I also think on humor, I'm big on humor. And I think, you need to be able to, everyone has their own sense of humor. Like, what is AI's sense of humor? That is like a little cringy to me. Like, I think humor is in delivery. Humor is in how you say it, not just what you say. And it's like the whole package. So anyways, I think there's, so I think we're in agreement here, Kelly, I think, on this one.
Here's the final question is for you both, agree or disagree, is taste still advantage human?
Ooh.
Is taste still?
I do. Okay, so I'll say my part. I know. I feel like I never give a straight answer because I feel like I look at both sides of the coin and every single thing that I do. But
taste, though, but in its real literal sense, is taste still advantage to the human or the machine?
So this is the answer I'll give. It is still driven. It's still human based. But what I do think the advantage you get from AI is it has the ability to look at a broader data set, to look at what's trending on the internet, what's popular, what's matched to certain groups. It can use data to understand what are people liking and sharing and commenting and engaging, and what are the components of that. Now, again, I'm not of the belief that it can take the outputs of that and do with it as you will, but I think it can empower a really talented person to be armed with really, really good information that can then take it and kind of hit that perfect note of, okay, if this group is really loving this thing right now, here's what I can match to my brand and really kind of insert in and do really well. So it's a middle ground answer.
I disagree, for the record. Rebecca, agree or disagree? Is taste still a human advantage, or are machines encroaching on taste?
No, I think that the humans got to win on this one.
I agree.
I mean, I think that, yes, it can pull data sets faster than any human ever can pull a data set. And it can, scroll the internet faster and more efficiently than any superhuman. But no, I think that, but also what's good to me isn't good to you. So
I was going to say, are you going to change your answer if we talk about generationally who we're serving?
It's also like, who is inputting the prompt, right? If I'm inputting the prompt one way and you're inputting the prompt another way, you're going to get slightly different results. Also, I don't know. I don't know. Humans aren't dead yet. Don't kill the humans yet.
Maybe I can marry both of your answers. So I would use this as an analogy. 10 or 15 years ago, if you were a well-known fashion apparel brand, and you were a trendsetter on the runway in Paris every year, where did taste come from at that time? Taste came from the people at the brand who were the designers, the fabric people. Taste came from those humans.
Is your question really who decides what's cool?
Yeah, taste. Yeah, taste. Is taste still a human advantage, or is an AI? But today, one of those brands very well may be doing what you're doing, Kelly, which is ingesting large sets of data to see what sort of apparel sells the best. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What kind of fabrics does it use? What's the positioning? And there's all this data out there to now tell them, hey, for our fall or winter or spring line or our lookbook, we have all this data that tells us we should be doing this, versus some tastemaker that's just some fashionista in Paris who just did it because it was their, Rebecca, to your point, it was their taste, right? People love Louis Vuitton or pick any Christian Dior or any of these brands, right? Because of the taste that those brands have been established on. There's no machine learning that developed that. That was somebody, that was a person.
That was an idea.
That was an idea.
It was an idea, and it was a stroke of creativity.
Yeah.
So
let me take that thought and ask you a different question. Yeah, let me ask you a different question on this, Rebecca. I'm curious how you think about it this way. Do you think for a brand, this might be situational, so pick any example. Do you think it's better for a brand to have their core principles, their belief, who they are, and to look at what's popular or the audience that they're trying to reach and try to craft a story that matches to that audience? So the brand sort of, I'll say, brand outwards. Or is it better to look at what's trending, what's popular, what people care about, and adapt your brand story to fit what is in demand and hungry at that moment for who you're trying to reach?
I mean, your brand story should always be your brand story. You're not going to go change who you are and your brand beliefs and your mission and what you stand for just because, crop tops are trending on the internet. Like I think that who you are is who your brand is and what you stand for should be within every single thing that you do. So I don't think you should go change who you are and what you believe in just because
What about
something is
what about not
trending.
maybe like the core values of the company, but the way you convey your story, who you are, right? What if you're trying to take a 50-year-old brand and conveying it on TikTok to a younger generation? Like, is it better to try and adapt to the medium that you're going out to and try and convince them, or to know, okay, like they're loving memes and they love 6-7 and these other things, and how does that fit? How can I craft that and match my brand in there? Like, is it, again, I'm thinking of it as like brand out or culture in.
Oh, yeah, that's I'm going the Todd route and say it's a little of both. Then, if you're gonna make me come up with a campaign about 6-7, I quit.
Well, the analogy is if you were a
Yeah,
fashion brand that didn't make that particular top, and all of a sudden all the data tells you that that's the most trendiest top that's going to sell for the next spring collection, are you going to make one even though your brand's never historically made one and that's not a look that your brand historically has put out there? Do you make one because the data tells you it's popular?
maybe you test one that feels you.
Yeah.
Feels like your brand. Oh, I keep thinking about, when you said it's this old brand that, you're trying to revitalize, like Stanley, like the Stanley mugs, the Stanley cups, like water
Yeah.
bottles, right? That's a super old brand and it's been around for a while. And I think that they like updated their color schemes. Like everything is like pastels and like cute, hot girl culture. And they weren't hot girl culture before. And
No.
I think, but they're staying true to who they are about, providing hydration on the go. I don't know what their brand principles are, but, hydration on the go. It's still hydration on the go, but, it's for the like hot girl that did yoga. And I think that was a great evolution of their brand, tapping into colors and trends and who that new consumer is. Your consumer is constantly changing. So you've got to be able to, change with your consumer, but still keep true to your core.
So let me tie this back around to the original question. How is a brand better served at figuring that out? Are they better using AI and tools to research and tell them what they need to adapt to? Or is it still human led with a creative director that can kind of tap into the zeitgeist and the culture and say, this is the way our brand needs to move? Should it be more data
I'm
driven
going
and
human.
information?
I'm
All right,
going
human wins
human.
still.
Human wins. Creative director is going to win.
All right. Well, so this is a good segue into the next topic, which is the idea of this new creative process. So today, what is a creative director? Is a creative director today, in your eyes, Rebecca, what it was 5 years ago? Or is a creative director today somebody who's now a smart and savvy prompt engineer, prompt director? And, is that the new sort of creative director superpower? Or is it still, again, like I went to the Art Institute, I went to art school, like I understand fine art and color and juxtapositioning and depth and like what a lot of creative people might, even though I don't have a creative bone in my body for some dumb reason I went to school for that. Is that still important, or is the prompt more important now?
I mean, look, anyone can put in a prompt, right? Make me this, make me that. I think that it is a bit of an art and a science to putting together what that prompt is. And then deciding what is even worth the prompt in the first place. And then I think you do need somebody that's able to like find the holes and mine on the good ideas and shoo away the bad ideas. Because not every point that comes through on AI is going to be a point that's really worth digging into. So I do think that you still need that filter with again, the human is, human is the humans are still needed. Don't kill the humans. Maybe we call this episode Don't Kill the Humans.
There's our headline.
There
we'll
you
make
go.
sure.
There you go. And I think that we need to be able to sift out the good from the bad, and create those great prompts that can set AI onto that right path. Because there's a lot of crap out there, that you get back.
So that touches on something I brought up, where that's how I find AI to be the most useful. I'm like Todd, I'm the least creative person there is, at least.
Give yourself more credit than that, you two.
I have plenty of creative ideas. I can't actually bring them life. I can't draw. I can't actually do any of the things that make them real, right? But maybe
that's what AI is for.
That for me. Yeah, right. And that kind of brings me to my thought here, which is what I often find AI is really helpful for me is it allows me to explore avenues and exploration things that I don't know exactly how it's going to come out. Like, I use a lot of data sets and I explore it. I'm like, what if I was to create this map or model or this analysis, and things that would take me days to potentially run down to a dead end and be like, okay, there's nothing here. And so I couldn't afford to do that. But now I can be like, oh, is there something there? And it'll kind of validate or invalidate something. I can take it a little further. It feels like that can be really salient and powerful in the creative world, where you can kind of create an idea like, oh, what if the logo looked like this? And instead of spending a day drawing and being like, I don't like that, it's a couple of seconds and then you see it, and then it lets you iterate. Like, I like most of this, but if I changed this, and that iteration component and the ability to chase ideas and thought and creative things into I almost feel like it's an expansion of my brain, right? Like I have little nuggets of ideas. Without AI, I can't run and explore all of them, but now I can explore 10 times more than I ever was able to. And most importantly, I can build upon, I have a little bit of a vision, I see it, it sparks a new idea, and then it sparks a new idea, and it carries us through, whereas that would have never happened before. Like, that's what I've seen really powerful with it.
Absolutely. And that's how I'm using it right now. I'm using it as like an initial starting point and then as an end point. And the in between is got to be, again, the human. It's got to be an actual a brain. But it's a great place to start, and it's a great place to get iterations, and it's a great place to build. It's this great building playground, and you can do it with crazy speed, which is always nice.
Right. So a quick. Agree or disagree. Let's not go down the rabbit hole because we're going to move on to the next subject. Agree or disagree? Do you believe the use of AI and this kind of technology, to your point, Kelly, earlier, is going to completely homogenize the output of eventually what sort of happens in creative and storytelling? Just for the record, I agree. I think it is going to have some level of homogenization across what we see, because I think as the AI gets used more and gets trained on more and more data, it probably is going to fall into a sort of similar suit. But I agree. What do you guys think?
What I would say is that I want to disagree. To say
but I don't think so.
I want to disagree, and I think those that are good leaders for their brands and good creative folks are not going to let that happen. So if you've got not such a great leader or not such a great brand that doesn't believe in the core of creativity, then yeah, you're going to be, everyone's going to be matchy. And then, but I think that's the call for great leaders, is that great leaders are going to continue to come up with great ideas that cut through and make an impact.
Yeah, I'll say mine a little bit quicker. I agree, but I think it's going to operate like a bell curve. I just don't know how long the timeline of the bell curve is. I think the novelty of the early adopters will create great benefit from it. And then it'll eventually get saturated at the peak and everyone will sound the same. And then eventually on the backside, everyone will start to revert back to how do I be different again? And that'll be anti-AI. And I don't know if that'll happen over the course of 2 years or 20 years, but I think it'll be a bell curve.
I think I would agree with that the most, actually. So, all right, Rebecca, here's a topic that Kelly and I have debated ad nauseum. Is good enough? And we had this discussion last week on the media side of things, where there's a lot of AI tools and technology that are, I would argue, sort of homogenizing the way media gets thought about, gets sort of pre-planned, gets planned, gets executed. It's sort of the tools that are coming out are sort of generalizing everything. And we've always worked in areas of like absolute specialty. And so the argument is that, well, the machines will do okay, they'll do good. And does that become the new norm? Is that good enough? And so that we have this debate around media and media technology. I wonder where you see this going with creative and content and just strategy, brand strategy and things like that. Do you think, efficiency or originality are going to come to a head? And do we get to this place where people just simply accept that good is good enough, but it's no longer great?
I will give you a very quick answer for this, is that good is not good enough. Great is good enough. So I think that if you want to be memorable, if you want somebody to associate greatness with your brand or your product or your service, you got to be great. You can't just be.
But are people going to be willing to pay for it is the big question, right? If you can get good for one price and great costs another, where's the cost benefit analysis?
Like 5x. Like, it's not close either. It's good is $1 and great is $10. Are people going to be willing to pay that anymore?
You have to have a great brand. If you're going to shell out the $10 instead of the $1, you better be able to, you better be able to really live up to that promise. So, and I say this all the time. I'm like, good is not good enough. It is not good enough. Great is what's good enough.
Yeah. To Kelly's point, can marketers afford to pay for great? Not all of them can. Even the ones that can, will they, when somebody else is telling them they can be great, but they're using technology as an efficiency sort of tool, not an originality tool. And so they'll never get great. They'll get good, but it'll never be great. But they'll sell it as great. It just won't be great.
Yeah, I think the other thing we've talked about is, will it be as obvious when it's not great, right? Because if you go up and things are good, right? It's pretty easy to understand when something's bad, right? But now the floor might be raised where everything feels pretty good. And so instead of having to recognize bad, which is clearly I'm not getting the numbers I want, I'm not getting the results I want, that's easy to understand. Like, I can't tolerate that. But if you're sort of in this comfort zone of like, things are pretty good, I don't have any red flags that are staring me at the face that I need to address. But what I now don't know is, what could it be? What am I missing out on?
Yes.
And like that becomes scary for me. Is, will people get comfortable with good enough because they don't know any better or because it's easier? And will we miss out on what could be because there's nothing poking me in the side being like, I need to address that? It's like everything's fine, but you don't know how good it could be if you push the boundary.
Totally agree with you. Like, what's on the other side, right? If you were to be great, how much greater could it be? And I think that's sometimes what companies are doing is like, okay, we're good. We're good. We're steady. But what if you really took that leap to greatness?
And could you pay for it? Can you pay somebody to take you there?
And what does the risk tolerance come to, right? Is taking the risk to try for greatness worth it, or do I just stay in my comfort zone?
Okay, so Rebecca, since you have had a lot of years of experience, both West Coast, East Coast, I want to talk about the talent pool. And now that you're off and running with your own firm, consultancy, agency, whatever we want to label it, you have to think about talent. And one of the big talk tracks around talent in the last, say, 6 months is that the employment rate of college grads is the lowest it's ever been. Do you see in this particular field of work, do you see junior roles like you grew up in the agency world, or like I did, or Kelly did? Kelly, same question for you. Do you see technology completely displacing these roles and what you think you're going to be doing, Rebecca, in your company over the next 6 to 12 months?
It's a great question. I think that the market is awful out there. I'm on LinkedIn all the time and reading everybody's, posts about the job market and all of that. And like, let's all be real. It's not great out there. I think that there are some things that AI can, replace. Look, when I was in my 20s and working on the agency side, I one of my big roles was taking notes, making conference reports.
Yep.
That is a thing of the past now. Nobody's writing conference reports anymore because AI can do it. And, like when we got on this call, my AI note taker came on to join. And I was like, well, we don't need her. So I think that there's things like that where that role is that task and that need is no longer there. But in that case, it might be more accurate. It might be, it knows what the acronyms stand for. But it still needs that human touch, again, to be able to go through and be like, is that what we actually talked about? Is this correct? Was this captured correctly? So there is still a need for, for example purposes, for a note taker. It's just that note taker now has some additional tools in their toolbox. But when I'm looking for talent to hire, and I'm guilty of this in every role I've ever been in, is that I like to hire my friends. I like to hire people that I know, that I've worked with in the past. And, people that if I don't know them, that I know somebody that they know. This world is small. And I think I've got advice for people that are just starting out. Make a lot of friends out there, network, go, take the coffee, take the Zoom call, go out there, make friends with whoever you can make friends with, because this world is very small and your paths will cross again. So,
I want to ask you the question in a slightly different way, and Kelly, you can answer this one too. If you were hiring for, I don't know, a copywriter, a content strategist, some sort of let's call it like a mid-level role, not a junior role, but maybe something that, you need to see that somebody's got some experience, they've got a little bit of a portfolio. If you had two candidates, one of them came to you with just basically, here's my portfolio. And the other one came to you and said, here's my portfolio, plus here's all the new stuff I've done using AI as a hybrid sort of co-pilot alongside me. Which person do you hire?
I got to look at both of the work, like what, because the first person may have just used AI and is not telling me that they used AI. So, I read the work. When somebody sends me a portfolio, I go through and I scroll that brand's Instagram feed, their TikTok feed of what they've been doing, and I go way back. Right? Yes, everyone has their show-stopping viral pieces of content, but what was the day-to-day? What was that like mundane post on a Tuesday that maybe didn't go viral? I like to look at that stuff. I would ask the first person some more questions about their use of AI and their use of other tools within their toolbox. And I would take a meeting with both of them. And then it might just come down to chemistry and who's got a good vibe, and yeah. And if they're in the same time zone as me, that's even better. So
Fair.
I don't love a 6 a.m. meeting. So yeah.
Kelly, who do you hire? The purist with non-AI sort of demonstration at this point in time, or do you hire a hybrid, somebody who said, I've done the pure thing and now I'm doing it in combination with tech and AI?
I think AI has exacerbated what I've always believed when it's come to hiring, which is, for me, the most important thing is to hire to personality. I think that the way that someone approaches things, their work ethic, their creative thinking, the way they handle things, I think that is the hardest thing to find and to adapt to and to teach. And I think now that AI can close a lot of the skill gaps and can enhance a lot of those things, I think that becomes even more teachable, and it becomes not what's available or what someone knows how to do, but what is their hunger? What's their drive level? What's their personal passion? What's the way that they approach work? What does it matter to them? Those are all personality driven things. I think AI just reinforces that further and further. And for me to answer the first question you went through, the whole thing about AI taking or replacing jobs and things like that, the biggest problem that I see, and I think I said this on one of our earlier podcasts, is I think it's going to create an experience gap. I think what's going to happen is the entry level elements, the note taking, the things that Rebecca talked about, were the things that got you the exposure, got you the ability to know how to prompt or how to iterate or how to use AI to take it to the next level. I think not getting that experience, not getting your foot in the door because AI can do the lower level things that generate that experience, that's going to be the cul-de-sac that we run ourselves into, where it's going to be people who already have an experience and can use the AI to create advantage. They will continue to level up. The people who never get their foot in the door and can't get to the point where they can be the users of the AI, but instead they're being replaced by the AI, that's going to create a huge problem. And I, again, don't know the timeline. Don't know if it's a couple of years or 5 or 10 years, but I do see that being the biggest risk and problem, is creating a huge experience gap in the workforce.
And the reason why I asked the question is because the most common thing that I hear said today is AI is not going to replace humans in a lot of these types of roles. But as a human, your job risk is competing with another recruit for a position who's better at AI than you are. That's why I asked, do you take somebody who applies for a job that has very little sort of, demonstration of AI knowledge and use, or the same person comes in with the same amount of years of experience, equivalent experience, but also has like a whole, demonstration of AI sort of tech savviness and use. And those are the people that are being sort of set up as the ones that are going to get the job, not the one that didn't take the time to learn AI.
I don't think you need an AI expert already. I think you need the person who has shown the passion and the interest and the willingness to begin to use AI and to push it further. So again, it's the personality. You're like, again, you don't already have to be an expert, but if you're the person that's threatened by AI and not willing to look at how it can help you, that's more problematic than, I don't know it yet, but I'm really excited to learn it and I'm already experimenting with it. And this is what I'm going to go figure out how to do.
All right, let's wrap up. Rebecca, time to put you in the creative strategy hot seat.
All right.
I've got 5 themes. I'm going to ask you one or the other, and your answer just is whatever one or the other is.
Okay.
Typical hot seat routine here. So thinking from your creative sort of direction, strategy direction, all of that stuff you've been exposed to. The first one is conceptual or copy first? Concept or copy first?
Concept.
Love it. AI, friend or threat?
Don't kill the humans.
We're going threat there.
We'll call it threat.
Okay, threat.
Storyboard first or prototype?
A storyboard.
Craft or speed?
Craft.
TikTok?
Craft.
Thank you.
Every time.
TikTok or Instagram?
Ooh, I want to know this answer.
Snap.
Oh.
No. What I will say, for me personally, it's Instagram. For my audience, for business owners that I'm looking to work with, heads of marketing that I'm looking to work with, it's Instagram. For customers of my clients' brands, TikTok.
All right. Fair enough.
I would have put you in the TikTok box if I was answering for you. Just
I know.
recent experience.
I felt a lot of pressure, you guys. I'm
That's why it's called the
sweating
hot
now.
seat.
I'm
That's why it's called the
sweating.
hot seat. All right. This is the last question I asked
Okay.
Kelly at times and other people at times. Rebecca, can you remember the very last ad that you saw?
Oh, the last ad that I saw.
It always proves how bad we are at
I-
advertising. We can't remember.
Okay. No. The last ad that I saw that I loved was after the Dodgers won the World Series, the Nike ad that ran.
All right.
That was a good one.
Good on
Yes,
Nike.
it was. Go Dodgers.
Rebecca, I think we should just have you on as a regular because there's so much we could talk to you about and get your opinions on. That
I would
be
love that.
helpful. So thanks for the first show, and we'll share this out, and you can share this out with everyone that you know. And thanks for joining, and we will definitely seek to have you back.
Yes.
Thank you, Shorts.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thanks so much. Next time, Bijan will need to join us. But if anyone wants to follow me and the Shorts in my little corner of the internet, making an ass of myself, feel free. It's Hello Shorts MKT.
Love it. We'll put that
All
in the show
right.
notes as well. for
Cool,
everybody
guys.
to
Thank you.
follow.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me. It was so great to see both of you. And next time you're up in LA, give me a call. We'll hang out.
Absolutely.
Good.
We'll get one of those girly cocktails with Kelly.
There you go. I'm in.
Kelly's favorite.
You're sold.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you
Thanks.
so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Contrary to Popular Opinion, where we challenge you to think independently, push the limits, and take uncommon action so you can achieve game-changing results in your business and your life. To stay up to date with our latest episodes, be sure to click the follow or subscribe button now. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.